Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayatamudirate Nashtaprayashu Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtakem. So welcome to today's morning Bhagavatam class. We are going to be reading from the third canto, 11th chapter, text 38. It is calculation of time from atom. I'm switching over to Veda base now. Kalo yam dvi prarardhakyo nimesha. You can't see the screen? Oh, I believe I need to do the sharing of my screen. Just a minute. Sorry about that. Kalo yam dvi prarardhakyo nimesha upacharyate avyakritasya nantasya hyandar yanadir jagad atmanaha. Synonyms: Kalaha, eternal time. Ayam, this as measured by Brahma's duration of life. Dviprardha akhya, measured by 2 halves of Brahma's life. Nimeshaha, less than a second. Upacharyate is so measured. Avyakritasya, one who is unchanged. Anantasya, of the unlimited. He, certainly, anadehe, of the beginningless. Jagad Atmanaha, of the soul of the universe. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The duration of the 2 parts of Brahma's life, as mentioned above, is calculated to be equal to 1 nimesha, less than a second, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unchanging and unlimited and is the cause of all causes of the universe. The great sage Maitreya has given considerable description of time of different dimensions, beginning from the atom up to the duration of the life of Brahma. Now he attempts to give some idea of the time of the unlimited personality of Godhead. He just gives a hint of his unlimited time by the standard of the life of Brahma. The entire duration of the life of Brahma is calculated to be less than a second of the Lord's time. And it is explained in the Brahma Samhita as follows. Yasya ikandishvasita kalam athavalambhya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanatha Vishnur mahan sahya yasya kala vishesho govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, whose plenary portion is Mahavishnu. All the heads of the innumerable universes, the Brahmas, live only by taking shelter of the time occupied by one of his breaths. The impersonalists do not believe in the form of the Lord, and thus they would hardly believe in the Lord sleeping. Their ideas are obtained by a poor fund of knowledge. They calculate everything in terms of man's capacity. This is a very important point. They calculate everything in terms of man's capacity. Our capacity is limited. Anything outside those limits, we think is not real. They calculate everything in terms of man's capacity. They think that the existence of the Supreme is just the opposite of active human existence. Because human beings has senses, the Supreme must be without sense perception. Because human being has a form, the Supreme must be formless. And because human being sleeps, the Supreme must not sleep. Srimad Bhagavatam, however, does not agree with such impersonalists. It is clearly stated herein that the Supreme Lord rests in Yoga Nidra, as previously discussed, and because he sleeps, naturally he must breathe, and the Brahma Samhita confirms that within his breathing period, innumerable Brahmas take birth and die. There is complete agreement between Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Brahma Samhita. Eternal time is never lost along with the life of Brahma. It continues, but it has no ability to control the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the Lord is the controller of the time. In the spiritual world, there is undoubtedly time, but it has no control over activities. In the spiritual world, there is undoubtedly time, but it has no control over activities. Time is unlimited, and the spiritual world is also unlimited, since everything there exists on an absolute plane. Om Agnan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishpashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vritta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm very happy to be with all of you again. It's now almost a month, and a couple of visits to the temple really sets the mood, as they say, in the right frame of mind. Especially last Sunday, when those children were reading from the Bhagavad Gita shlokas, reciting it all by memory. And I was sitting just listening to those sound vibration. It really touches the soul. Some things move our heart, but these transcendental sound vibrations move the soul. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu Maharaj was mentioning that we have these senses, the five material senses. There are senses of the mind also. So intellectually we may appreciate something. But then there are senses of the soul, which in a material condition is lying in a dormant state. And whenever there is any spiritual sound, whenever there is any spiritual sight, we are taking darshan of the deities, whenever there is any spiritual taste, prasadam, that we are eating, all these things, it immediately goes and activates the soul. So all these things that happen, it's a different experience altogether. And similarly, today morning, regularly, all of you, thank you very much for doing that, join the morning program. In the evening, Sammeshwar Prabhu's Bhagavad Gita classes. And whatever is spoken are these spiritual sounds. And these spiritual sounds come and touch the soul. Soul is eternal, spirit is eternal, the spiritual sound is eternal. So it may just, after saying the word, we may hear it, and that sound vibration materially may go away. But however, it remains forever. It remains with that soul. So what we are doing today, what we did yesterday, months ago, and what we will be doing years from now, that remains forever. And forever means eternal, and that is the time that we're talking about. This whole chapter is related to time. So let us understand from this verse what learning we can get from it. Hari Kishore Prabhu in one of his class had said that scriptures are not text, they're context. So that context, when we understand it, hearing from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, Vaishnavas, we understand that context. It removes all confusion, removes all speculation, and that becomes spiritual sound. So we may chant Bhagavad Gita verses, but if we chant without the right context, that effect is not as much. So my prayer is that I hope I can, whatever I have prepared today and whatever I'm going to share with you today will be on basis in the framework of whatever I've heard from Guru Sadhu Shastra. Hare Krishna. So the first point that we will cover is time. Is it relative or is it absolute? So we've been talking about time. It starts from when the sun moves over the time the sun takes to move over one little atom. What is it? So from there, it starts scaling up and all the way it goes to Brahma. And then it says, hold on, that's not it. There's still more. So we get amazed by Brahma's lifespan, 3.11 trillion years and more. But that again is just like a fraction, not even a fraction of a second when it's compared to another entity, the supreme entity. So supreme entity is absolute, right? Here, our perception and understanding of time is always relative. Albert Einstein proved relativity, theory of relativity. So we also learn that time is uh, uh, energy of Krishna. Time I am in Bhagavad Gita, he says. We also learn Krishna is absolute. So what is time? Is it relative or is it absolute? We'll understand that point. Then the purpose of this micro and macro scale of time calculations. There are some creatures whose entire 100 years happen within 24 hours of man. So within 24 hours of our time, human beings, there are living beings whose entire 100 years happens within that much time period. And then if we look at ourselves to the demigods, and the demigods, then we compare to those denizens in the higher planets. And then as we go higher, not only that, in the different yugas, how the time factor, how the duration of life, how it starts contracting from Satyug and all the way to the Kali Yuga over here. Then to Brahma it goes over here. And then beyond Brahma. So what is the purpose of understanding all this? Whenever we read, always, whatever you read in the Shastra, whatever you listen from a Vaishnav, there's always an instruction in it, always an instruction. There's a purpose behind it. It's not just empty sound. Prabhupada had said, what is silence? Silence is not absence of sound. Silence is that sound which quietens down all noise. So anything else that is not connected, correct, to spirit, to spiritual, is all noise. So when we are chanting Hare Krishna, even if you're doing it loudly, it silences all the noise which is inside the mind. So the purpose of micro and macro scale of time, we will cover that. Then finally is our conclusion. We'll bring this all together as a recap, and hopefully if there is time, hope to have a question or two. Otherwise, Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya forum on WhatsApp. This is just a quick recap of the earlier class, but it is relevant, so I'm sharing it again. Time is Krishna's energy. It affects matter. Keep these points in mind and not spirit. Okay. Time is also one of the main themes of Bhagavad Gita. It talks about Ishvara, it talks about Jiva, the control, it talks about Prakriti, it talks about Kala, time, and it talks about Karma. All the above four are eternal. It's only Karma, which is temporary. And what is time? Time measures change, movement. We understood here also the sun is moving from one point to another. That little atom, how much it takes time. Then the time for it to move from Brahma's lifespan, his 100 years, it is 311.42 billion years. So time is a measurement of change. And here's what Shri Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, time I am destroyer of the world. Prabhupada said time is destructions, all manifestation are to be vanquished by the desire of the Supreme Lord. That's the law of nature. And then this is Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. Whatever time you have, 1 day or 100 years, is simply meant for you to serve Krishna. Take this opportunity. That is really what matters. Everything else is just Maya. So here is a quick recap on time. We understand that from Bhagavatam, atom is also a subtle form of time. when it is just as is, okay, the atom, it is unlimited oneness. When it combines these atoms, it gives forms. We understand even in our from science books in maybe the 7th or 8th grade, there's the atom, the atoms get together, they form the molecules, and then all molecules get together. All those types of bonds and all that we understood in. So this is what Bhagavatam has been saying since time immemorial. Okay, it is measured by movement of atomic combination of bodies. Okay, the time covered by the sun passing over the atom is calculated as atomic time. Now here are some very interesting calculations. So it goes down to Trasarenu, 6 atoms. They combine and they make 1 Trasarenu. Then 3 Trasarenus make 1 Truti. That's 0.000592 seconds. And if you actually take a calculator and go back and look at all these, it will exactly tell you this is how much it is. Exactly. So these are no approximation. This is not, maybe it is something like this. Like in science, there is a saying that 2 plus 2 is equal to 5 for very large values of 2. So 2.999999 recurring plus 2.9999 recurring. For all practical purposes, it is equal to 5. But those are approximations. Here, it is not, it is exact. So then it further tells you that 1 laghu, 2 minutes, that is 15 shatas, is 2 minutes. Now, if you work backward from this 2 minutes and come to Truti, it will be exactly 0.0592 seconds. So here is the preciseness of these calculations. And then it further on goes on and on and on. The Earth month is equal to 24 Pita planet hours. So just as I gave you the example of that little insect whose entire 100 years is 24 human hours, similarly look at what our 24 hours is in context to Brahma. We are not even an insignificant insect, not even an insignificant insect. So time is accurate, it is relative, and controls all matter. Now, earlier I've said relative, then this element comes off. Question is time relative or absolute? Time is Krishna. Time I am, the destroyer of all world. Krishna is absolute. So, how do we understand this? So let's look at it this way. There is time and we understand consciousness. So keep this consciousness in your mind, the idea of consciousness. Consciousness is a symptom of the presence of soul in the body. Just as when we have infection, there is fever, correct? Fever is a symptom that the body is infected. Similarly, consciousness is a symptom of presence of soul in the body. The body remains. When the soul leaves the body, it dies. The body is there, but there's no consciousness. That means the soul has departed. So keep this for a moment, consciousness. Okay. Now, time we understand on one level is relative. It is, when it is relative, it is perception based. This is our understanding of time. 99.999% of all living entities have, in the material world, have a relative conception of time. It is based on a perception. And we can understand that when we were young, you go to school, time doesn't, from the first bell to the last bell, time doesn't seem to go away and you say, oh God, how much time it's taking, how much time it's taking. But when we are playing, okay, after school you come and you're playing, and then your mother calls, oh, come on, it's getting late. And you say, oh, it just started only. Time went so fast. So it is all perception based. Time is ever changing. We know that. Some of us may have gotten up at 4 o'clock, some have gotten up at 5 o'clock, but it's no longer 5 o'clock. Right now it is 6:50. Correct? It's always changing. And time subjugates. Subjugation means it changes everything and you can't do anything about it. I was a 5-year-old. My body looked different. I'm 58 years today. My body looks different. Hopefully, if I get to live another 10, 20 years, my body looked different. Subjugation. I can't do anything about it. I may put Botox injection. I may do plastic surgery and all that. Still, you can't do anything about it. So this is what is the relative understanding of time. So yes, time is relative. It is also absolute. How is it absolute? Because it is reality based. In reality, there is no if, and buts. This is it. As it is. Bhagavad Gita, as it is. That is reality, fact, constant. One of the definition of truth is it never changes. Truth is independent. It doesn't require majority support. It stands all alone. It is constant. It doesn't change. Past, present, future. 2 plus 2 equals to 4. Was in the past, is present, will remain in the future. Okay? And what it does is, time in the spiritual world facilitates. In the material world, it destroys. In the spiritual world, it facilitates. Now the question comes is, what is spiritual world? Correct? So if you see, these three is all related to matter, and the below yellow is all related to spirit. So what is spiritual? What is spiritual world? Spiritual world is a physical place. You know, you do the lat and long, there's a physical place, the spiritual world, right? But also importantly, a spiritual world is our consciousness. So we could be in this material condition, and as long as our dormant senses, spiritual senses of the soul are activated, like Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu Maharaj said, when that gets activated, we are in a spiritual world. Then the effect of time on matter, time will act. However, the effect of time on our consciousness goes away. I was reading recently, Prabhupada said that spiritual means there's no fear. There's no fear. Absolutely. And if we analyze it, we have fear, anxiety, everything is basically of loss. We lose something. I lose my job, I lose my family, I lose my life. What does loss mean? Loss is the effect of time. Time is changing some stuff. I don't want it to happen, but there's nothing I can do about it. So this is time. Time is both relative, time is absolute. In the physical realm of spiritual world, it is absolute. In the material conditioning, it is relative. However, we could be in the material world as long as we have a spiritual consciousness. The effects of time on our consciousness is negated. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneously one and different. This is another awesome aspect of Krishna. He could be, he is within, he is without. Okay. Similarly as time, time I am. Depending on your consciousness, it is relative or absolute. What is the purpose of these macro scales of time calculations? Okay, one is to realize how insignificant we are, always controlled. For that, you can go back to those charts. Devkinandan Prabhu also had given one chart to see how much scale is there. And then Brahma is not even that small little insect in comparison to Krishna. So who are we? Other thing is, shastras are accurate. As I said, if you take a calculator and go back, what does it mean when shastras are accurate? It helps build faith in Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Now, we may read the Shastra, and there are so many things which are contradictory, apparently, but they are factual. They're contradictory because we have limits. Prabhupada has explained, the Mayavadi thinks that because human being sleeps, God should be opposite of that. Because humans have a form, God should not have a form. That is an incorrect understanding or a limited understanding. So when it says that Shastras are accurate, it helps us build our faith in Shastra, in Guru, in the Sadhus, in the Vaishnavas. Because a Guru, Sadhu, Vaishnav will only repeat whatever is there in the Shastra and whatever he or she has heard from the other Gurus and Vaishnavas. But Shastras keep in point as it is. As it is. Shastra, when it is concocted, then it no longer becomes Shastra. I can't put I think Bhagavad Gita is like this. I can't do that. Yesterday, Krishna Namanand Prabhu was talking about precision. You see the precision level from that atom, sun moving over an atom, that time period. What does it mean is when it's precision, it gives us the instructions that we should be very precise in our sadhana, not casual. Pay attention, whether it is DT devotion, DT worship, whether it is doing japa, whatever it is, easier said than done. All of us know it, my experience at least. Okay. And what happens is when we do precision, when we pay attention, to do this, we need intent. And Krishna sees intent. Krishna sees intent, not result. So even if we start doing things in an attentive manner, that intent will automatically develop. We may not have intent at first. Prabhupada said, if you're not feeling enthusiasm, act enthusiastically, you'll become enthusiastically. You'll become enthusiastic. So when my japa is total inattentive, Hare Krishna, my eyes are going here, there, my ears are listening to what's happening over there in the other room. All those things are happening over there. But if I just sit down and I say, okay, out of 16 rounds, at least one round I will try and put attention. And in that one round, again, the mind runs away of 108 times. At least a few times I keep pulling my mind back. That pulling the mind back is very satisfying to Krishna, that intent. Okay. Also, time, we understand, is limited. All of us have an expiry date, shelf life. So it creates the urgency when we are reading about time. I should not be wasting time. Then, of course, the awe and admiration for Krishna. We get completely, what they say, mind blown looking at Brahma's lifespan. And then we go further up and we say, gosh, Brahma, he's not even like that little tiny insignificant insect as compared to Krishna. Who is Krishna? What is he? Can you just fathom what this is? So that awe and admiration for Krishna develops. And from that awe and admiration, ultimately the entire goal of everything is to develop prema, love of Godhead, love for Krishna. And once that thing is ignited, it's already there. Right now it's covered by all our ashes of karma and our material consciousness. We go back to Godhead. Thank you, Prabhu's Matajis. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If there's any question, we have 2-3 minutes. This is a nice instruction by Prabhupada. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, then immediately you will realize God. So if you aren't doing it, humble request, just read even one verse a day, but make it a discipline. I'll read every day. This is my quota. One, I'll do every day. That becomes your intent, no matter what. And that is something that will please Krishna. Don't worry, you may understand, you may not understand, you'll get confused. There are always forums, there are always people whom you can ask. But if you read it, that will be a great utilization of time. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions, or we go over Madhupati Prabhu?
Haribol. We still have a minute. Thank you very much, Amritananda Prabhu, for the wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So I'd like to wish you all a safe and Krishna conscious day ahead. We'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord, nicely by chanting Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare,
Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Narsingha,
Jai Narsingha, Shri Narsingha, Jai Jai Narsingha Deva, Praladesha, Jai Padma Mukha Padma Mrika.
Ugraveram
Ugram Veeram Mahavishnu
Jalantam
Jalantam Sarvatamukam
Nrsimham
Narsingam
Bhadram Nityam Namamiham. Nrsimha Bhagwan ki jai, Prahlad
Jai.
Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Let's offer our humble obeisances to the respect of all the assembled Vaishnavas.
Vancha
Vanchakalpatarubhasya
Kalpataruvyasya
Sindhu
Jayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha
Vaishnavinda ki
Jai.
jai. Nantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Amritananda.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Thank you.
All glories to
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada. Thank you.
Hari
Thank you. Hari Bol. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.